People tend to think louder equals better. Well, it kind of does, doesn't it? Anyway. Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name's Justin. I play guitar on songs in Nashville, and today I want to talk about attenuators versus cab modelers. I tend to favor the cab modelers. I really like the aux box, but I did get some questions about the last video that I put out regarding the aux. People were asking me if I would compare it favorably to an attenuator. I have not used the aux as an attenuator. For me and what I do, it's not helpful to have the volume of the amp in the room with me. So I run out to an extension cab in a different room, or I just go into the aux and I feed things through my monitors. So maybe you're wondering, like, well, how do you hook it up to monitors if you don't have an audio interface and all that stuff? Well, it's got a headphone out on the front of it. And if you have some bookshelf speakers or just a set of powered speakers, you can use, basically, you can treat those like headphones for the aux. So you could have your bookshelf speakers set up. You could even run a little splitter, play music off your phone into it and the aux. I'm pretty sure you could do that without any issues. And treat the aux like it's running into headphones, but it's into those bookshelf speakers. You could do it that way. But for me, I just go direct into my interface with it. I use an optical cable. So what I wanted to do is compare between those sounds, which I really like, and then the closest thing I have to an attenuator, which is the power scaling feature on my Lazy J amp. So I have this amp dialed up. I've got it mic'd up here. It has an Alnico Blue in it. My problem with attenuators is that all of my favorite speakers have a really cool signature breakup to them. Greenbacks, Blues, old Jensens. Basically every low headroom speaker is going to break up, right? Well, that's part of the sound. It really is. Unless you're like an EVM 12L person, you know, like you really like that speaker just doesn't break up. It's dead clean. Some people absolutely love it. It's a totally different thing. I think they're cool. I just don't use one very often. So my problem with attenuators is when you crank the output down so low that when it's coming through the speaker's not doing the thing that it needs to do to sound right. Does that make sense? It's not breaking up. The speaker isn't breaking up at all. And it's not adding its thing to the sound. So let's turn this on. I've got my gold top. Pickups are at 8.5. The Lazy J, the tone is at like 8 and the volume is at 7 on the bright channel. All right. And I have the normal channel at like 2.5 or 3. That's all the way up. Let's turn the power scaling all the way down. I think it goes down to like 1 watt or something. Just a bit of a pop there as the circuit kicks in. Now, power scaling's on, and I'll bring this up in when I mix the audio. I'll bring this up so it doesn't just sound quieter, because then you're automatically going to think that the amp all the way open sounds better than with it scaled back. So. So when I'm listening to that close mic'd in my headphones, and I start using pedals to kind of push the amp and playing it the way that I normally would, I notice that the speaker isn't participating. And it kind of bums me out. And anytime that I'm remotely bummed out about my sound, it's like I need to sound good to me. And if I can tell that something's off like that, it's like I can't ignore it, you know? I still deliver, I still play as well as I can. It just isn't the most inspired thing. You cannot force or fake inspiration. And I think that's half of the battle with picking tones and whatever, you know. So I see so many comments on YouTube where people are like, I can't tell the difference between this overdrive pedal and that overdrive pedal. I bet you couldn't either. And it's like, well, maybe if I were just listening and not playing it, if I wasn't feeling how it responds, if it's after the record's been mixed, there's no way I'm going to be able to tell for most comparisons of pedals that are pretty similar, you know. Like after the mix is done and you've got a full band you're listening to and everything, it's like, is that a real amp, or did they use a real speaker there, or did they run it through the aux box? Like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I can tell every time, you know, but that's the beauty of it. I can use those and get quiet sounds when I need, you know, and be okay. But I'm not going to disagree with the idea that sometimes it's hard to tell, and different pedals don't make very much of a difference in the final product. Where a lot of the value lies for me is how they make me feel when I'm playing. Wow, that's really cool. That sounds really good. That makes me want to play more, you know? And it could be like 3% different than what I'm used to normally doing. There's value there. There's a lot of value there because it brings more out of you, right? It's not, you know, cork sniffery or snake oil or anything. If you feel different playing it and it's inspiring you, you can't fake that. And you can't ignore it either. It's valuable. So for this, when this is turned all the way down, by the way, the reverb is coming from my Boss Fender 63 spring pedal. When that's turned all the way down, I just don't hear the speaker doing what I love to hear a Celestion Blue doing. It's not doing it. So I'm kind of, you know. I'm gonna turn it back up now. All right, so my camera died and I got real busy and wasn't able to make the second half of this video until now. But I've got my Lazy J here. We're plugged into the aux. I've got it set on the 112 50s Twang cab, which is basically a Tweed Deluxe cab. So let's check out how this sounds. Man, it sounds really great. I'm using the same reverb pedal that I had on for the other part of the video. So what's great about the aux is that now I can go use a different speaker cab, right? I don't have to use the 50s 112 Tweed Deluxe cab. So let's see, what do I want to use here? I think I'm going to switch it to my favorite, the 412 Punch. This is a killer sounding cabinet. Let's get the same mics on it though. I had a 57 and a Ribbon 121. Take the EQ off of them. Pretty fantastic. And the amp's got the same settings too. It's the volume of the bright channel is at 7, the tone is at 8, and the volume of the normal channel is at 3. That's the same from before. You're just not hearing that Alnico Blue. So what I love about the aux and about the whole speaker modeling world is that you're not sending such little power through a speaker, like with an attenuator, that the speaker doesn't get involved. That's my problem with the real low power setting of the Lazy J. That Alnico Blue sounds weird. It's not doing its thing, you know? So it's like, what concession do you want to make? If you want to be able to crank an amp in your house, do you want to model the very back end of the signal chain? Or do you want to have an attenuator and have such little volume coming out that the amp doesn't sound as it should because it's not using the speaker as well that's in it, right? I would say I'll see you later, but let's find one more cab that's cool in here. How about 50s Tweed 60s mics? I like the sound of that. Like if I don't hear a 57, it just doesn't sound right to me. So I'm going to switch mics and pan everything. There's the 57 and then a 67 Neumann together. I like the sound of the modeled Alnico Blue better than a real Alnico Blue with such low volume coming out of it that it doesn't give its characteristic contribution to your sound. It's just me, I guess. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will talk to you later. Bye.